Hello and welcome to a genteel black hole, the home of my bookish rambles. My name's Ali and, well, there's no accounting for taste, is there? This is the Get to Know My Taste tag. It was created by Samantha from Thoughts on Tones and Mari from My Name is Mariness. And I was tagged by Mark from The Book Thing and Anna G. I will put links to all of their channels and original videos in the description. It's been months and months since Mark and Anna tagged me in their videos, and for reasons I won't get into, I now have quite a large backlog of videos to make. So this one seemed like a good place to start. If you watch Mari and Samantha's videos, then you'll hear them explain the concept behind this tag. In short, it's kind of an update to the BookTube Newbie Tag, both in terms of updating the tag and allowing people to update their BookTube introductions, if you will. See, one of the problems with the BookTube Newbie Tag is that it tends to be one of the first videos that you make, and it's one that you make before you really know what your channel's about. So this tag is a really good way of sort of reintroducing yourself when you've maybe been on BookTube for a little while now. I've been here for nearly 2 years, so I think I have a slightly better handle on what my channel is like. And also, I'm just making better videos than I was when I started. So, yeah, without further ado, question 1. How do you rate books? Give a quick rundown of how you do your star ratings, or if you don't use star ratings, how you evaluate books. So I don't use star ratings on my channel. I have nothing against star ratings, but I don't have a star rating system that I feel confident in. It's not consistent. It's entirely vibes based. So yeah, I don't use them on my channel. I just kind of give my general thoughts on books, and you can kind of gauge my enthusiasm that way. If, however, you do want to see my star ratings, then I will put a link in the description to my story graph. So because I don't necessarily talk about every single book I read, story graph is probably the only way that you're gonna be able to follow like everything that I read. But I don't tend to write reviews, so it is just a log of what I read and what my star ratings were, which, as I say, are kind of inconsistent and vibes based. So yeah, two different options for how to follow my reading. You can either get the whole log with vibes-based stars on Storygraph, or you can hear me ramble in more detail about them right here. Question 2. How do you approach reviewing books? What's your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, or structured? Generally, I just try to sum up my reading experience. I will try and give a quick summary of what the book's about, what genre, style, tone, that sort of thing, and then discuss what I liked, what I didn't like, who I would recommend the book to, if indeed I would recommend it. Question 3. What's the book that made you a reader? Whether it was your first favourite or the one that got you hooked, what book started it all? Well, my reading life is kind of divided into a few distinct phases, and I would say that the earliest book that I remember really geeking out about and getting really excited and some might say obsessed about was The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, which I read when I was 9. I loved it completely. I got really invested in that world in Middle Earth. I tried to read Lord of the Rings not long after. I got through the first book, and I think I managed the second as well, but I never finished the whole trilogy at that point. Um, but yeah, I got really obsessed with the Hobbit, with Middle Earth, with the Shire, and I would decorate my school books with dwarvish runes, and I had like Tolkien calendars and stuff like that. I got really into it in a way that I don't think had happened before. The next thing that really sparked my geekishness was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, which I read when I was 12, shortly followed by the entire series and every other Douglas Adams book I could get hold of, which unfortunately wasn't many books. He was not a prolific author. Um, he kind of hated writing, so he procrastinated a lot and had to be locked into rooms by his publisher in order to finish books. So it didn't take me long to read the entire Douglas Adams catalogue. But again, that was kind of a turning point in my reading. Probably the first sci-fi that I got really excited about, not counting films like Back to the Future. I was a Back to the Future geek when I was a kid as well. But yeah, I got really into Hitchhikers. I kind of I think that was when I first started to get involved in a fan community. We got internet access at home around that time, and the first thing I did was join a Douglas Adams fan forum, and I joined the fan club. I went to the Beeble Bears picnic in a park in London. So yeah, that was definitely a big influence on my reading. So my twin passions of sci-fi and humor were well catered for there. But my reading has often been inconsistent over the years. So it was only about 6 years ago, coming up for 7, when I kind of finally established a daily reading routine, which I've stuck to ever since. I read every day, unless something disastrous happens, but generally I read every day around the same time in the morning. And the first book that I read to sort of establish this routine was Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy by John le Carre. And that was a book that I think before then I might have found too long and daunting, but having that sort of daily routine helped me get through it, and I ended up absolutely loving that book. I had previously seen adaptations of it. I'd seen the Gary Oldman film first, and then the mini series from the 70s with Alec Guinness, which is amazing, by the way. But yeah, that's the book that sort of established my most long running and consistent reading habit of my life to date. Question 4. Do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate toward? Or do you read widely across genres? I'd say I read pretty widely, but I do have some sort of go-to genres that I gravitate towards more than others. So fantasy, sci-fi, and murder mystery would be kind of my main three. I'm also a huge fan of Shakespeare. So, yeah, kind of classic plays. I've been recently getting into stuff like Ibsen and Chekhov as well. So, yeah, I'm open to a fair range of stuff. Been getting into more classics recently as well. I also read poetry and non-fiction, so I'm kind of all over the map. But yeah, fantasy, sci-fi, and murder mystery would be kind of my main go-to genres, my sort of comfort genres. I also enjoy reading children's books, so which often kind of come under the heading of fantasy, I suppose. I've been getting into Moomins recently, and I love like the Paddington books and Winnie the Pooh, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'd say I read a fair range of stuff. I should also say that on this channel, I like to include some of my other passions. So I like to talk about music, especially kind of weird, experimental, progressive music, and also classic films. So, yeah, it's not just books here. Question 5. Do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? I find this question quite difficult to answer because ideally I kind of want my books to serve both those concerns. I think that character kind of is plot. Like, what do the characters exist for in the book if not to tell the story? And what does the story exist for if not to house the characters? Those you can't divide those two things, I think. And while different books will focus more heavily on one or the other, I think that I like a balance of both. I like characters that are interesting. They don't have to be likable. They don't have to be nice people. They just have to be interesting to read about. I do also appreciate good structure in a story. So, if a book is entirely character focused and it's just, introspective, musings and nothing actually happening, I'm unlikely to be gripped by that. I mean, for example, I did DNF Orbital by Samantha Harvey for that reason, because just nothing is happening in that book at all. But anyway, but on the other hand, if it's just, constant plot movement and there's no depth to the characters, they just exist to make the wheels of the plot move, I might keep reading to the end to find out where the wheels stop, as it were, but I'm probably gonna find the book underwhelming. So yeah, in short, both, please. Question 6. What's a book you love so much that you don't care if others don't like it? What's that one book you love enough for everyone? To be perfectly honest, I don't really care if anyone dislikes the books that I read. Reading's a solitary activity. I do it myself for myself, and kind of doesn't matter really whether anyone likes or dislikes what I read. As long as I'm having fun, that's the main thing. And I'm not going to take it personally if you disliked a book that I love. I guess my best answer to the question would be Weird Sisters by Terry Pratchett. Pratchett is one of my favourite authors, perhaps my favourite author. My channel is actually named after a Terry Pratchett quote from Guards. And Weird Sisters was the book that made his work sort of click for me. That's what made me a fan. I've read it like 4 times in the past 4 years, and it always delights me. I love the characters, I love the humor, I love the plot. It's full of Shakespeare references, so the whole thing is just right up my street. And if you're not a fan, then fair enough, but I bloody love it. Question 7. What's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? The book or books where a difference of opinion is a strong indicator of different reading preferences. Again, I find this quite difficult to answer because, a lot of my bookish friends, we don't have exactly the same tastes, but there's often some overlap. So just because someone doesn't like Terry Pratchett, for example, doesn't mean that they also don't like Ursula K. Le Guin or John le Carre or whatever other author I am also a fan of. So yeah, I'm not sure there is one book that I could put such a huge emphasis on. I will say though that if your reading tastes tend more towards kind of current popular stuff, then this probably isn't the channel for you. I don't read much new published stuff. Tend to read older books, whether that's as old as Terry Pratchett or as old as Shakespeare. So yeah, if you're into all that kind of Court of Thorns and Roses and whatever other kind of romantasy thing is popular at the moment, not denigrating that as a genre, but it's just not really my area. So yeah, probably more a case of if you're into that, then we probably don't have a lot in common. But then again, who knows? Question 8. What's in your trash pocket? What books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad, but you love them anyway? So I think I see what this question's getting at. It feels like a kind of coded way of asking about guilty pleasures. And I'm not sure I believe in guilty pleasures. If I enjoyed a book, then it obviously had something to offer me, even if maybe the writing wasn't as polished and solid as I would usually like. I suppose the closest thing I can think of to answer this question would be kind of celebrity biographies and non-fiction about entertainment history, because there may be not the most beautifully written books in the world, but if I'm interested in the subject, if I want to learn more about the making of Doctor Who, for example, then yeah, I'll read that. And even if I am reading sort of celebrity biographies, they tend to be sort of obscure musicians and forgotten actors and as I say, the making of Doctor Who or something kind of culty like that. So, yeah, they may not be artistically brilliant books, but they're full of information that sort of nourishes my special interests, and that's good enough for me. Question 9. Do you have any deal breakers in books? Something that, if present, immediately turns you off from a book? Well, there are certainly some topics that I am less inclined to read about, but I think it kind of depends on how much I trust the book or the author. Because, if the book is going to discuss difficult topics, racism, sexism, abuse, violence, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, etc. And obviously, some of those topics affect me more directly than others. If those topics come up in a book, then it might make me put my guard up. It might make me more cautious while reading it, but it depends what I feel the book is saying about those topics. Because, sometimes, especially reading older books, you can come across some racist language, for example, and it's a question of, why is this in the book? Is this just the author being casually racist, or are they trying to make a point about racism? So, if it's the former, if it's just the author being horrible, then I'm less inclined to enjoy that book. Still also have to kind of take it in the context of the time it was written. So, if it was a book published yesterday and the author is being a racist asshole, then that's a definite red flag. Whereas if I'm reading Shakespeare and there's a bit of objectionable worldview in there, then, it's 400 years old, and that's slightly less surprising. So while I might point it out and say, not crazy about that, it might not necessarily make me stop reading. Question 10. What's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year? Whether it's overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share? Well, I think you probably gathered already that I don't read a lot of new books. However, one recent publication that I did read was Robert Macfarlane's Is a River Alive? I don't really have a hot take on this, but it's not a book that I've seen discussed a lot on BookTube, though I also haven't really searched for it, so I'm sure there are videos about it. But it's definitely a book that I would recommend if you're interested in reading more about nature. There are some upsetting things in there about the way that capitalism is damaging nature. But it is ultimately also a hopeful book about the people who are trying to turn that damage around and help nature to heal itself. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's definitely a recent book that I would recommend. Question 11. What do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out to you? Is it prose style, themes, voice, structure, or something else? Well, I think a few of those things are kind of easier to assess after you've finished reading the book. Questions of themes and structure, that's something you only really fully appreciate in reflection. So I can't say that those are things that keep me reading a book, although they are things that I then appreciate in hindsight. But I guess that what just keeps me reading a book on a sentence by sentence basis is the prose style, and also just how interesting the plot and or characters are. But yeah, if I enjoy the way that an author puts a sentence together and I am interested in the story that they're telling, the characters, that's what's going to keep me reading. Question 12. How do you decide what to read next? Do you plan ahead, mood read, or follow external factors? Hype, recommendations, ARCs, etc. I am 100% a mood reader. I can't force myself to read something that I'm not in the mood for. And I think that's partly because if I feel like it's something I would normally like or would like at another point, I don't want to spoil it for myself by forcing myself to read it when I'm not in the mood for it. And equally, if it's something that I just am not interested in at any point, then why would I force myself to keep reading it? So yeah, I am definitely very much a mood reader. I do keep a TBR list, but it's more just to remind myself of the things that have been sort of on my radar, things that I'm interested in trying, so that if I can't decide what to read next, I can check the TBR list. I also keep lists of the book series that I'm reading through in order, so that I'll know what is next on the list for whatever particular series I'm reading. What's my next Discworld reread? What's my next Moomins book? Things like that. But yeah, I can't force myself to read anything that I'm not in the mood to read right now. So yeah, mood reading all the way. Question 13. Where do you get inspiration for your BookTube content? What sparks your video ideas? Other creators, trends, personal reading experiences? Well, tag videos like this are certainly very helpful for ideas. I also keep a long list of ideas as they occur to me. In fact, I would say that having ideas, having the inspiration is not the area that I have a problem with. It's having the time and the energy to actually make all of the videos that I have ideas for. So, yeah, generally my sources of inspiration can be reading wrap-ups, specific book reviews, retrospectives, that sort of thing. I also, as I say, like to discuss music and films, and poetry. I write haikus, so I sometimes make videos about those. So yeah, as I say, the problem isn't so much getting the inspiration, it's getting the energy to make them all. Question 14. If you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention, and why? Maybe this is a bit of a cop-out, but I don't really like the idea of my favourite books going viral. Personally, I'm quite resistant to hype. If something's heavily hyped, then I'm more likely to be turned off rather than turned on to it. So, yeah, I think I'd rather my favourite stuff didn't go viral, if you don't mind. Question 15. Who are some booktubers with reading tastes similar to yours? Well, the first names to spring to mind are, of course, Mark from The Book Thing and Anna G, both of whom tagged me in their videos. I think they both have quite a lot of overlap with my tastes, and just they generally both read quite a wide variety of books that we have a lot of overlap there. So I would definitely recommend both of their channels. I will also include a list of other people in the description whose channels I recommend and whose tastes overlap with mine in some way or another. Not necessarily like 100% overlap, but certainly a lot of areas of similarity and similarly wide varieties of tastes. And that was the last prompt, which swiftly brings us to the end of the video. So if you're still here, thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Maybe let me know in the comments what areas of reading our tastes overlap with, or I don't know, whatever else is on your mind. Whatever it is, I'm always happy to hear from you. But that's about it from me today. I hope you're having a lovely day, and I will see you when I see you.